You're going too fast. That's all right.
Have any of you ever thought about what happens to an expecting mother who uses narcotics? Pregnant women who abuse narcotics, such as opioids, often give birth to babies with birth defects. So how does a user try to avoid these complications? My name is Savannah Murphy, and today I will be sharing with you some effects, issues, and preventions of maternal opioid abuse. By the end of my speech, I hope you will have learned a bit more about opioid use during pregnancy and how strenuous and complicated this experience truly is. Every 15 minutes, a baby is born with opioid withdrawal. An estimated 32,000 babies are born with neonatal abstinence syndrome in the United States in 2014. And this statistic has increased over 5% from 2004. Today I will be sharing with you how babies are affected by opioids, the birth defects that can be caused by opioid use, and finally preventative measures that can be taken to protect the fetus. So now that I've given you a brief introduction about how common this issue is, let me tell you a little bit more about how the child is affected. A wide range of birth defects are common in infants who are exposed to opioids. Birth defects are a physical or biochemical abnormality that is present at birth and that may be inherited or the result of an environmental influence. There are many different defects that could possibly affect the child, and more than one defect can be present at birth. If the mother uses opioid, the baby does too, so whatever the mother puts in her body affects the baby through the placenta. This transfer of chemicals from the mother to the fetus is known as crossing the placenta. A condition known as placental abruption is the risk and concern to mothers who use opioids. This is a serious condition in which the placenta separates from the wall of the uterus before birth. Placental abruption can cause heavy bleeding that can be life-threatening to the mother and the baby. The placenta grows in the uterus and supplies the baby with food and oxygen through the umbilical cord. So damage to the placenta means damage to the baby's lifeline. Now that I've told you a bit about the effects on the child, I'll go more into depth about some of the different defects. There are more than 4,000 defects known to this day. One of the common defects associated with opioid usage is miscarriages and stillbirth. Miscarriage is defined as the death before 20 weeks of pregnancy, and stillbirth is the death of a baby after 20 weeks, or after 20 weeks or more of pregnancy. So neonatal abstinence syndrome, or NAS, is a group of conditions caused by a baby withdrawing from a drug that they were exposed to in the womb. As mentioned before, the baby uses the drugs as well for however long the mother uses the drugs. So some symptoms of an infant with NAS would be tremors, seizures, overreactive reflexes, and tight muscles. These symptoms are very similar to signs of withdrawal in an adult user. Premature birth is when a baby is born before 37 weeks of pregnancy. This early delivery can cause health issues at birth or can appear later on in life. So now that you've heard about the difficulties of maternal opioid abuse, I'll share with you some ways to avoid these defects. So many individuals would assume the best solution would be to quit taking the narcotics to benefit the baby. But this is far from the truth. Quitting suddenly, or cold turkey, is very dangerous and it puts an unsafe stress on the fetus. After quitting, the mother and the child both experience a large amount of stress and withdrawal. Education plays a vital role and a good outcome for the baby. So healthcare professionals have to explain to the parent or parents the adverse effects of quitting the opioids during the pregnancy compared to weaning the child off safely after birth. So while there is no actual reversal of any damage caused to the opioid-affected fetus, there are preventative measures that can be taken. So medication-assisted therapy, or MAT, is when doctors prescribe safer drugs to the mothers to eliminate any harmful substances and certain categorized drugs. So you may be wondering where a pregnant user can obtain such medications. Local treatment centers specialize in MAT for addicts seeking recovery, and establish safer medications with assisted therapy. Doctors in these centers typically prescribe a medication called methadone or Suboxone to break the power of the addiction. These drugs replacements help to offer a safer quality pregnancy for the mother and the fetus. Replacement drugs are prescribed and administered daily to the patient to ensure proper usage, and are paired up with a drug screening to eliminate any additional drug usage. The preventative measures available are very strenuous, and afterbirth care is crucial. So now that I've bombarded you with information on maternal opioid abuse, let's recap some of the key points. So the baby is affected just as much as the mother is, if not more, during pregnancy when opioids are involved. There are many different defects that the baby could experience when exposed to narcotics. And finally, there is no assurance that the infant will not develop a birth defect, but there are better options than quitting or continuing one's normal usage. I hope next time that you get prescribed a dose of painkillers that you think back to this and remember how powerful of a drug you are actually taking. Thank you.
Yay.